the steel barque Penang began her life under another name. Built in Bremerhaven in 1905 at the Rickmers yard, she was launched as Albert Rickmers, one of the last large sailing ships designed for the great ocean trade routes of the early 20th century. She measured just over 87 meters in length, carried 24 sails, and could haul more than 3,000 tons of cargo, grain, timber, coal, guano, and chalk among them. She was built for Rickmers' own service to the Far East, sailing first to New York, then across the world to Hong Kong and Bangkok, before returning to Bremen in 1906, a maiden voyage that already marked her out as a ship of global horizons. In 1911, she was sold to the Hamburg shipping company F. Laeisz, famous for its fleet of Flying P-Line sailing ships. In keeping with company tradition, the ship received a new name beginning with P. She became Penang. Under the Laeisz flag, she worked the South American trade routes between Chile and Mexico, a practical cargo carrier rather than a glamorous clipper, but part of a proud tradition of German square riggers still holding their own in the age of steam. During the First World War, Penang changed hands again, serving for a time as a floating warehouse, and after the war she was surrendered as reparations. In 1920, the ship entered a new chapter under the Finnish shipowner John Nurminen of Rauma, and soon after, in 1923, she was purchased by the Åland shipowner Gustaf Ericsson, whose company would become famous as the last great operator of deep-sea sailing cargo ships. Under Ericsson's flag, Penang took part in the Australian grain trade, the final great arena of working sail. Each year, ships like Penang loaded wheat in South Australia and raced back toward Europe, timing their passages around Cape Horn and the Roaring Forties. These were not romantic voyages. They were long, dangerous, and demanding. Her logbooks tell stories of ice, storms, and narrow escapes. In 1928, on passage toward Port Lincoln, icebergs were sighted in the Southern Ocean, a stark reminder that the great sailing routes still crossed some of the most perilous seas on Earth. In 1933, east of the Falkland Islands, while transferring wheat, Penang took a severe list of 38 degrees after being struck by a heavy sea. The ship nearly capsized and the boats were lost, but the crew fought her upright and brought her safely home. Even in port, misfortune sometimes followed her. In 1926, while laid up in the Poplar Dry Dock in London, the supporting shores under her starboard side gave way. The mainmast collapsed, and although the ship survived with only limited hull damage, the bent mast remained as a visible scar from the incident. Despite these hardships, Penang endured, a working relic of an earlier age. Through the 1930s, she continued Ericsson's grain voyages between Australia and Europe, crewed largely by Scandinavian sailors and captains such as Johannes Mattsson, Amandus Grenlund, and later Carl Victor Carlson, who would command her on her final voyage. On the 3rd of July 1940, in the midst of the Second World War, Penang departed Port Victoria, Australia, with 3,250 tons of wheat bound for Queenstown in neutral Ireland. She sailed independently, as she always had, without escort and without wireless communication, a sailing ship in a world now dominated by submarines and convoys. For months, nothing was heard. At first, the ship was simply listed as overdue. Rumors circulated. Perhaps she had been wrecked in a storm, perhaps bombed from the air, perhaps lost without witness. Only much later did the truth become clear. On the 8th of December 1940, west of the coast of Northern Ireland, the German submarine U-140, commanded by Hans-Peter Hinsch, sighted a three-masted sailing vessel. Mistaking her at first for another Finnish ship, the Laeisz, the U-boat fired a torpedo. The missile struck Penang amidships. According to the U-boat's war diary, the barque capsized and sank within half an hour. There were no survivors. The captain and 17 men were lost with their ship. For years afterward, Penang was officially recorded as missing. Only with the later release of wartime naval records did her true fate become known, a silent casualty of a war fought in oceans that sailing ships had once ruled.